Greetings, everyone. It's good to see you guys on this lovely day, at least where I am. I don't know where you are, but it's beautiful here in Florida. All right, let's get rolling. I've got another batch of questions here for everybody, from everybody, and we'll get going. So, let's see. Here we go. Bob Gagura. How should I approach price point testing when my primary pricing consideration, customer acquisition cost, is unknown? In the spring, I tested my SAT prep software at a $249 price point and did not generate any sales. During testing, I uncovered a similar product that is free. I do believe I have valuable differentiators for this product, and I want to test the market at a lower price point, around $30 to $50. Okay, cool. Bob, you're way ahead of me. You know, when I first read the first part of the question, I started thinking to myself, like, how have I done this? And I generally like to test things based on price. If I'm worried about price as a factor, I will just reduce the price to something very, very low, even something I can't deliver for, right? Because then at least I know if price is a factor or not, right? So if I set the price really high and nobody buys it, I didn't learn anything, right? I just know that they didn't buy it at that price, but I don't know what price they would buy it at. So I start low in this type of scenario where I'm trying to figure out like what the right price point is. And if I have a lot of data, this really only works if you have a lot of, if you could put traffic against it in order to test different price points, or here's another key component. You need to put similar traffic against it, right? Because you want to make sure you're only controlling for one variable change at a time. Because if you're changing multiple variables, you don't know if it's the price or if it's the demographics, right? Like, so maybe you change the demographics at the same time you change the price, you get a different result. It screws everything up. So same traffic, low price, or it's something I would never deliver it for this price, at least to establish a baseline. Even if I'm upside down on my marketing or whatever, at least I establish a baseline, and then I can decide, okay, how far away am I? And then I can start to squeak it up, right? Like some of you know, I had a goofy product called the Big Hot Dog a bunch of years back, the world's largest commercially available hot dog, and we sold that hot dog ultimately for $100. It was a big, giant hot dog, like that big. But when we first started selling it, we sold it at $30. I got $39.95, I think is what it was. That was not profitable for us to sell and ship that thing at $39.95. But we put it out there at that price and established that it could be sold. There were people that would buy it. And we knew that if we put this much traffic across the site, we get this much of a result. And then I just kept increasing the price. And as long as those conversion rates hold, then I knew that price was not a factor up to that point, right? So, and then once we hit $100, it was actually, again, $99.95 or something like that. We found that as soon as we broke that $100 mark, the conversion rates changed. Like, that's where we really started to see less converting, like in a noticeable way, once we broke the $100 mark. So we always just kept the price at that $100 mark. We knew that that was what it was because we worked our way up. Now, if we would have done it the opposite way, let's say we priced it at $80 initially, and then worked our, well, let's say we priced it at $180 initially, and no one bought it. We didn't learn anything. We priced it at $160. We didn't learn anything. We priced it at $140. We didn't learn anything, right? So like we learn when somebody buys. And so if price is a factor, it's generally easier to go up. Again, this is assuming you have constant flow of new traffic. My advice would be completely opposite. If you're like in a B2B sale and you're trying to sell to people and you're going to want, like, then I always say price higher, because it's going to be harder to get them to raise the price later with the same customer over time than it is to start high. And even if you have to discount it or do something to get them in the door, that's one thing, but you've already established that your price is high. That's different. So anyway, long story short, yeah, start low. If there's a free product out there, give your thing away for free for a little bit. Make sure that your marketing is actually getting to the right people who will sign up and do something with it, or a small amount, $5, whatever. Probably don't want to give it for free because there's always that issue of people value things they have to pay for. So even if they have to pay a few dollars for it, you really want to make sure, you want to know, will they take the credit card out of their pocket and will they use it? So yeah, a low number to test that hypothesis that I can at least get a person to take their credit card out and put it into the computer, into your website or whatever. That's what you want to figure out. And then of course you can upsell, right? Like, so you can give away something free or something really cheap, get them to do something, and then you walk them down the path to get them paying a higher and higher amount. As you offer more and more products to an established base that's already proved that they will buy from you. Cool. Meryl Goodrich. Should I set different pay rates for private versus public events for my team? When we do private events, my team members are fully paid for by our clients. I started with only private events and charged $50 per hour per support staff. IL Bartend keeps $25 per hour, and my team makes $25 per hour. Now that we have started doing public events, it's a huge risk to guarantee $25 an hour plus tips. If we do not get any business, I get crushed by payroll. However, the outdoor events are exhausting, hot, and require an incredible amount of physical labor. So it seems wrong to pay less for these. Not sure what to do. My team is already becoming spoiled, and I need to rethink how we pay and what my expectations are from them. I realized that we addressed when I created an employee handbook. Okay, great questions. So the public events you're not guaranteed any revenue, because I assume that means that like people are walking by and they either buy from you or they don't. So what you're essentially asking is, are you going to put the risk of not selling well at a public event on your employees, or do you just pay them like you usually do? I guess off the top of my head, I would say that a public event from an opportunity cost perspective, meaning you could go do a private event and get some guaranteed money, or you could go to a public event. So I would want to know, what is the upside of a public event? Like realistically, like based on the number of people who are walking through, based on the number of the type of demographics that are there or whatever, what is your upside? Is your upside better than the $50 per hour per employee that you were getting at the private event? And how much better? Like, what is the potential there? Because if that potential is not, because it's not guaranteed, like you're saying, like you could have a rain day or something like that, and then now nobody shows up and nobody buys anything, so there's risk there. You need to have a better upside on the public events than the private events. From a paying your employees perspective, I mean, maybe you can pay less because, like, per hour, I don't know what people in that industry generally expect to make, but I'm assuming that in your private events, you're not like greatly overpaying them. So assuming that they expect, if they're standing there doing that type of work, to make $25 an hour plus tips, it would seem to me they're doing the same work, just because the world is different. From your perspective doesn't necessarily mean that it's different from their perspective. So you may have to look at how you choose your public events, and make sure that there's enough upside to justify the risk of not selling anything if you do have a bunch of full-time employees paid, or employees paid to be there. So that's how I would probably look at it. I probably at this stage would want to know more about the public events. Why am I doing them? What's the opportunity? What's the upside? And does that offset the risk of paying everybody as I normally do? Because if it doesn't, then maybe we don't want to do the public events, or maybe we need to change our business model altogether for those events. Maybe you look at it more like you only do public events in some sort of licensing deal where the worker is compensated, you know, but like it's their thing basically that they're doing, you know, and taking it out into the world, and they're taking the risk on it, not you. Good question though. Nadia Savyak. I live in the Chicagoland area and I want to go off on my own to a bigger salon and rent out chairs and suites. Only problem is I am not showing enough of my money to buy something on my own just yet. I was wondering, what do I have to do to get there? Open a bunch of credit cards under my name? Okay, good question. Financing, startup financing as a business is always tricky. The question is, for me, is how much risk am I willing to take on an unproven concept in an unproven place? So in your case, you're going to need revenue to cover rent because you're going to be like a salon. You're going to have to you're going to have to build out your space. You're going to have to rent. You're going to have to pay your own lease and get that all set up. So what I would do is I would get money from anywhere that I can get it if I knew that I already had my own customers, right? So if I know I have 10 chairs and I already have leases signed with 8 of those chairs before I've spent any money, like I just happen to, you know, I have 8 people who are like, yeah, I want to be involved too, and I love the deal, and yeah, sure, $500 a month, whatever it is, 1,000. That would be a different situation than if I was going and saying, like, well, I think this is going to work. I think this is a good idea. I'll just build it and they will come. Is that the thing from that baseball movie, whatever it was? Build it and they will come, right? I hate build it and they will come because I've done that a bunch of times, and like 99% of the time they don't show up the way that you expect them to or that you want them to. So I'm more of a, how much can I put in place from a revenue perspective before I spend any money? How can I create this picture of where we're going and what it is, and how can I get people behind that so I can start to test the market ahead of time before I make any commitment? Because then, frankly, financing becomes a lot easier then too. Like, for example, if you came to me and said, like as an investor, if you came to me and said, hey, look, Dan, like I want to open up this chain of salon suite places, and I got my first one kind of all like thought out. Here's the location generally, even if you don't have the specific, but here's the general location. Here's all of what the lease is going to cost us. Here's all of our like pro forma stuff, utilities, electricity, all that stuff. And here's the best thing. I already have these 8 people who are going to take 80% of the space immediately. They've already committed. They've signed a letter of intent, which of course is not binding, but at least it's showing that there are people who are interested in this. It's a good starting place. Let's finance. Like, can you help me with the financing? I would really consider helping somebody with the financing on a deal like that, because then it limits the risk from whether it's your money, credit card money, an investor's money, doesn't matter. You should always be trying to figure out how to limit risk. And the more you can limit risk before you spend $1 or make any major commitments, the easier it is to put the money together, or the safer it is for you to use a credit card or to borrow from family and friends, whatever the case is. That's what I would do. I would make sure that my risk is as limited as possible, and then at that point, the financing part becomes less of the conversation, because then everybody's more comfortable with the potential outcome. Okay, cool. All right, Carrington Crothers. How do you know if having a business partner is the right decision for your business? I'm a commercial product photographer, and the other day I had someone approach me with a pitch to partner with me on my business. I know they have a solid photography background, but don't know how to know if when those decisions are made or the steps that are taken to come to a decision. I feel I'm in a position where my business is slowly starting to take shape and get traction, but this pitch caught me off guard and I don't know what to think about it. Great question. And I've got a question for you. What value does this business partner bring to the equation? Like specifically. Because you said in here that they're a great photographer. They have a solid photography background. Okay. So what? Like a lot of people have a solid photography background. What do they bring to you? And like what's the value to you and what's the value to them? What's the part? You guys should both be missing something, and the thing that you're missing should be complementary so that when you guys come together, you fill both those empty slots with each other's skills, right? So maybe you're good at sales and they're really good at the production photography side. That's great. But if you're both good at the photography side and still no one's going to do sales, now you've just brought on a partner and you still got the same problem, right? So like the only reason to partner with people is if they're bringing some sort of value to the equation. And also you still might want to even consider that, because what is the value that they're bringing? Let's say they are bringing photography, the production side of it. I don't know what it costs for you to hire somebody to do certain things on the production side, but you have to remember equity is the most expensive form of financing. And when you bring on a partner, you're essentially sharing equity. And because once you give that equity away, you don't get it back unless the person, they want to sell it to you or something like that. You got to buy it back or something if that can even happen. So my question would be, are you willing to give up all of your future profits, not all, but 50%, let's say, if it's a 50-50, 50% of your future profits because this person can do some production work? Or are you better off just paying somebody $50 an hour or $100 an hour, whatever it is, to do the production work? And $50 or $100 or whatever might sound like a lot right now, but in the grand scheme of running your business, the profits over a long period of time are worth way more than that once you're profitable. So it's worth thinking about. So how do your skill sets connect? And are both actually bringing something to the equation and that are complementary? And whatever it is that they're bringing, is it more or less cost effective for you to just hire that instead of giving away your equity in a partnership? Not to mention the partners come with all kinds of other baggage. You've got to have a strong operating agreement between the two of you. You need to be able to just be a good culture fit. You need to be date before you get married, right? Like you're getting married to this person. This is a very, you're financially connected to this person. Your livelihoods get tied together. It's a very important decision. And people a lot of times make partnership decisions way early. And that's why so many partnerships end in not the most positive outcomes. Okay, Brad Coleman. How do I figure out the next steps when I'm lost in taking the company to the next level? Hello, we have all talked about foundation before and taking steps to building a brand and brand awareness. I feel as of right now, I am just starting to get traction in my target audience, meaning following on social media networks, people interacting with me online, feedback on my products, face-to-face interactions at shows where I get all good responses and reactions, as well as sales starting to pick up and people wearing my apparel. How do I know what the next step is, or should I keep doing what I'm doing and slowly continue and let it all fall into place? Okay, cool. Yeah, look, what I would do is I'd quantify the work that you're already doing in terms of time and dollars. All those things that you listed, social media, face-to-face interactions at shows, all these things. I would break all of those things down on a spreadsheet and basically say, when I go to a show, it costs me this much time, it costs me this much in entry fees, it costs me this much in giving away free product, all this stuff, right? And then I would say, when I do that, I get some sort of outcome. That's the hard part, because if you're doing brand awareness marketing as opposed to direct response marketing, it's harder to quantify the value of that work that you did that day, because you didn't necessarily make any sales or direct sales, but somehow you created a brand awareness and now you made sales later on down the road. I would want to see, especially in these early stages, again, from an investor perspective, how much direct response marketing can we achieve, right? Like that we know we spent this money, we got this result. We know people are buying our product because we say X, Y, Z to them, and then they do it. That's like if you're going B2C, right? Like that would be the way to really quantify it. So quantify out all of those activities that you do, maybe the ones that you don't really know, because maybe some things you can really tell, like say digital, you can really tell, like, oh yeah, I do this, I get that. Other things you do, maybe you can't really tell, it's a little ambiguous. Maybe you do less of that for a while and you focus on the things that you can quantify as like, I did this work, I got this result. And then just scale that up, right? Because if you have something that's working, that you know is working, you just spend more time and money on it, on that particular thing, and everything goes up, right? Something else that jumps to mind is it sounds like you're selling to individuals, maybe you're selling B2C. Maybe there's some B2B play in there somewhere on apparel. Or maybe there's like some particular boutique industry that you can go after that would be complementary, that you can make some partnerships or one-to-many type sales, right? So like right now it sounds like you might be just selling one-to-one in a B2C environment. Maybe there's some other strategic sales relationships that you can build, whether it's a partnership with a complementary business that's in, like, you're talking a luxury auto sport apparel. So like maybe like down here, not down, just right down the street from me, there's one of those exotic car club rental places. Maybe those types of places you can create relationships with, and then it becomes more of like a B2B type sale versus B2C. But other than just knowing how your product enters the market, and then doing more of that, and again, like I've said before, once you know that and you know your conversion rates and you know what you got to do to raise the scale of what you're doing, because you've done all the preliminary testing in all those categories, now you can just ask for money and say, hey, I need to spend $1 million to do these 10 campaigns, which I've already done at small levels, and I've gotten these results. And then this is the projection based on spending the $1 million. It becomes much more achievable. So you don't have to wait. You don't have to grow necessarily organically, but you do need to do all the necessary testing so that when you decide you want to put more money into it, you've chosen all the right things to kind of push forward because you know they work. Okay. Rajesh Moranjani. How can I find a suitable marketing co-founder for my startup? I am working on an app by which students can get fluent in English online. We give Zoom-based classes to students where there are a max 5 students in a class, to all of them to get to talk and practice a lot during the session. The concept is getting very good reviews from the students, and I'm thinking it has big potential for a worldwide audience. We have 2 batches filled so far, but there is scope to fill lots and lots more batches. My challenge is that I am a software engineer by profession. I enjoy the product building part more than the sales and marketing part. So even though I've done the sales for the first 2 batches, I want to focus more on coding, development, and product, as that comes more naturally to me as compared to marketing campaigns and conversion rates. Any ideas on how I can find a partner to complement my skills, as well as do's and don'ts to watch out for that regard, will be helpful. Great question. I love what you're doing. I've seen some similar businesses like this. I can't remember what it is. There is one out of, I believe it's India. That's all, I don't think it's English. I think it's actually like a coding thing. But anyway, point is that online instruction in a particular genre can really make a lot, like big revenue. The company I'm thinking of is hundreds of millions of dollars. And they're basically doing the exact same thing you're doing, except in maybe a coding category. And I love that you're doing it in English. If you can market, so okay, we're talking about a marketing co-founder, right? So I think what what you really need in that person is someone who has international, because I assume you're selling internationally. I don't know, maybe that's wrong. But I assume that you're wanting to sell internationally. So what I'm envisioning is you're going to need a lot of channel partners in different countries who are going to help connect you to your would-be audience while simultaneously kind of run controlling that group that I'm like. So let's say I have in I've got 10 different ambassadors in 10 different countries. I manage those people and make sure that they're reaching out to the one-to-many type people, like companies that would utilize our service, right? I would say, where do you find that person? That's a great question, because you don't want that person to be cold, because again, like with any other partnership, you want to have some sort of introduction or relationship. 9 times out of 10, your best connections come from people that you already know. You're really only 1 or 2 people removed probably from your perfect person. I would just do what you're doing. I would ask around, and I'm thinking through my kind of Rolodex in the back of my head, who I might make an introduction to. That's probably what I would recommend. I would recommend you tell this exact same story to everybody you come across. Tell them exactly what you just said right here. Any business person that you talk to, anybody in your real life, online, whatever, keep telling them this story, and then you will get introductions. I guarantee it. You'll get people to talk to. So that's the first thing. Word of mouth. Ask people what you need. They'll give it back to you. I'm sure they will. My follow-up, or the second part of your question is much probably deeper. What are the do's and don'ts to watch out for in this regard? So the don'ts, I would say, is be clear. Don't let someone else tell you where you're going to fit. So you be clear on where you want to fit in the founding of the company, in the growth of the company, which it sounds like you are clear. You like the product building, you like that part of it. So make sure that when the person who approaches you, or that you approach them, that you have the right relationship, so that it doesn't become them getting to do only like one part and then you having to pick up all the other slack, or vice versa, that you're expecting them to pick up a bunch of slack that they're not ready to do. So you have to have an open communication there, and you can decide going into it kind of what your opportunity filter is. Maybe, I guess that's a good way to do it. Maybe lay out a list of non-negotiables with this, like when I find this person, these are the things that they have to be able to deliver to me to make them a good partner. Here's the things that I want them to be able to do in order to, quote unquote, buy into it. A lot of times people are a little bit too quick and easy to give away equity in their company before this other person has proven themselves in any way. So I would recommend, if the person is wanting to be involved and you want them to be involved, have a clear picture of how they earn their way in, or how they have to invest their way in. That's another way. But even that, money is really the side issue. It's really more, are they a right fit for you? And are they a right fit for your company? Because you don't really want to bring on partners who then don't work, and then you're stuck with this person in this seat, and you have to figure out how to get them out of that seat to grow forward. Yeah, so I would be very careful about that. That's something that's easy for, like, myself, for Sean, or any of the other mentors. And if you do have somebody you start talking to and you're like, oh, I think this might be a good fit, whatever, any of us can probably give you some pointers on, like, how to evaluate that person based on who they actually are, and how that fit might come together. So anyway, word of mouth, tell everyone what you're looking for. You'll get referrals, I'm sure. Because it's a cool thing what you're doing. Stephen Davis, do you let your executive virtual assistant read your email? I have heard many business owners, CEOs, allow their EAVA to read their email. In theory, it would be great to have someone sort your email, but how does it work in practice? Do they read your email and delete the ones that are not relevant to you? Do they respond to emails on your behalf? Do they add items to your to-do list? How do you know if they deleted an email that was important or did not respond to an important email? Is this a task that I should delegate or keep doing myself? I run a PEO and HR consulting firm and receive around 100 to 200 emails a day. Of these emails, 25 plus are actionable in a day. Great questions. Great questions. So I have an executive assistant. I actually have two. And they both have complete and full access to my email. They also read all my emails because they know what I'm doing. And in order for them to help me, they have to be able to look at all the stuff. So they do that. They do delete the junk because we all get like junk emails. They also will delete stuff or archive stuff that is just like, you know how you get carbon copied on a lot of stuff? I basically just told them, look, if I'm not specifically addressed in it, like, hey, Dan, I need you to do this, or this is something that actually involves me, and it's just like, quote unquote, for my information, I just have them archive that right away. Because if I sit there and read all this stuff that's for my information all day long, I can waste my entire time, my day doing that. So I just tell them archive that immediately, which they do. And then if I need to go back and look at it, I'll search for it on my Gmail or whatever, my Google apps. They do respond to emails on my behalf. What they do though is if it is something that they want to respond to as them, i.e. not me, because they don't respond as me. Like if you get an email from me, it's actually me. But if they do need to respond to something, what they do is they carbon copy their email address into the chain, and then they'll actually respond as them. Like, hey, Dan's doing this, and this is what we need to do, because they know enough about what's going on to make decisions and try to get things scheduled, organized, connect people who need to be connected, that sort of thing. They do add items to the to-do list based on emails that come in. It's not really a to-do list in my case. It's more of a, hey, here's the person you need to talk to, scheduled with notes on what you're talking to them about. That's my favorite. My favorite thing is once I got to that point, I was really excited about it. They'll schedule stuff, and I don't even really know why they're scheduling it. And then when I read the notes in the calendar invite for me, or maybe they'll tell me about it in a meeting. This is why you're talking to this person, because it's connected to XYZ. Follow up from there. So I'm like, oh, cool. The goal is to get your executive assistant managing you, not you managing them. Right, so the best executive assistants make a lot of money. I pay my two very well, probably more than a lot of people are paying their accountants or whatever, or their second in commands in their companies, because that's what they are. They're really an extension of you. So they can be paid very well because they free you up to really spend high value, high dollar per hour efforts. What else did I want to say here? How do I know if they deleted an email that was important? I don't know. That's a great question. I think it comes down to training and communication with your executive assistant. We have a standing meeting where we review everything, a half an hour per week. So everybody kind of knows what's going on. But frankly, if an email comes through and they delete it and I don't know about it, I guess I don't know about it. But in my particular case, I don't think there's anything that comes through my email that if for some reason it got deleted on an accident or whatever, that doesn't. They'll just, whoever it is will just send it again, or like, hey, following up on this, right? Like, so I don't get very many one-shot email situations that if something is not followed up on immediately, that's it, you've missed the opportunity. Maybe yours are different than that. I don't know. So you'd have to think about that differently. But in my case, I don't have that situation. I would also probably imagine that in your case as well, there probably isn't too much that's like that. And I also have a feeling that a lot of those 100 to 200 emails a day, and you said 25 plus are actionable, I'll bet you those 25 plus that are actionable are really production related emails. I'm guessing. Meaning that if you can train someone to understand what those 25 emails are and what those actions are, I bet you could probably get a lot of those off your plate pretty easily. That's good. So my point is, you got to give everybody access. You got to give them access if you want their help, and you got to get. This is a lot of times people ask us about employees and finances, right? Well, do I need to tell the employees how much revenue we make or how much we spend on coffee or whatever it is? If you want them to help you with stuff, you have to give them the information. They have to have access to stuff. Is it a risk? Of course it's a risk. Everything in life is a risk. You can do the best that you can to mitigate it. You can have controls where you're checking, quality or whatever. But at the end of the day, the solution is not to lock down, no pun intended with everything that's going on in the world. The solution isn't to lock down, but it's to open and live with the risk. Because the alternative, any minor issues that come up from being open are way outweighed by the loss of opportunity of being totally closed and locked down. So hire yourself an executive assistant. Put it all out in front of them. Make sure they're top notch. I'm not a big fan of if you want to outsource your virtual assistant, like if you're have to do some sort of research or something very not just stuff that has to burn hours, then yeah, outsource that, go overseas for that, do it for $3 an hour or whatever you're going to do it for. But if you want a true executive assistant who's going to take care of your stuff and read your emails and do all this stuff and really be an extension of you, you've got to look for that person. You've got to pay well for that person generally. And you can find fractional ones. You're just going to probably pay, $60 an hour, $80 an hour, but it'll be worth it. Keep them focused on the important stuff. And if anything that starts burning lots of hours just because it takes a lot of labor, you can find an outsourced VA for that stuff. You might have to split it up that way. Okay, I think that's it. Good to talk with everybody. Let me know if anything else comes up from any of these questions. You guys can reach out to me directly, or if anyone else wants to talk to me about anything. I'm always excited to hear what people are up to, because being an entrepreneur is what it's all about, and I have been it my entire life, and I love it. And I love all you guys. So have a good one. Have a good weekend. See y'all.